of the most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Hello and welcome to the Racehour podcast in association with BetMGM and Gambling.com. We're coming to a more normal weekend this weekend after the excitement of the DRF, if you want to call it that, last weekend. Paddy Aspell, I'm actually going to go to you first in an unorthodox move with Diarmuid Nolan on the podcast. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Dublin Race Festival. Really, I wanted to hear what you made of Marine Nationale, because you were very sweet on him as a horse last week. So just what did you make of the performance, the horse, the ride, the everything?
Well, I'll be honest, boys, I was out all day Saturday, which was unfortunate for me. I didn't catch any of the stuff live, but got very excited to watch it all on the Sunday. And I think you probably know what I'm going to say. I was very underwhelmed, if I'm honest. I honestly found it boring. Only for the Harry Rogers story on the Sunday. It was very, very ordinary stuff, unfortunately. We knew, everybody knew it was very Willie Mullins top heavy going in, but even the races themselves, they were a bit disappointing, certainly on the Sunday. And I suppose as far as Marine Nationale goes, the most thing I was disappointed with was that he never looked like winning at any point. Now, that said, Michael O'Sullivan really, I don't think, put his foot right to the floor, because he obviously was getting no feel off the horse and he was very easy on it from the back of the last. But probably the most disappointing thing is now that Barry Connell is actually coming out and saying it was the ground, when he has said in the past that this horse will go on any ground. He bombed out. He didn't show up. Very disappointing. But that's the first chink we've seen in his armour. But it was a whopping bad effort. Take a fair bit of forgiving now, wouldn't it?
It would, and it'll open up the Arkle, which is a good thing, I suppose, from an excitement and a betting perspective, for all that you hate to see a horse suffering with their breathing, and you hope he would bounce back, but you'll be able to back him if you think he will. Diarmuid Nolan, have you done any fresh Cheltenham bets on reflection now after the Dublin Racing Festival?
Well, Stephen, I back Magical Zoe for the County Hurdle after saying on the podcast on Tuesday you couldn't back a handicap runner this far out. My thinking is just 25s, you won't be getting lower than that before now. After that, bar that, and then last night couldn't sleep for some reason, so I went through the Arkle over and over again. And can't find a bet in that market at all, though.
Oh God, I thought you were going to tell us something interesting there.
No, literally, like
a podcast. Like,
I keep coming back to Fastel Vega, and that's not good, because I've never backed that horse in my life at all. But just at 8 to 1 or so, I just keep kind of coming back to him. But not a whole pile, no, Steve.
Okay, so Fastel Vega, be interesting to see what Townend rides. They tend to go for the most recent winning Grade 1 horse, but if what Townend is on, it's going to have a big impact on that market. Anyway, I was just interested to really hear what Paddy had to say about that. But we'll crack into this weekend's racing. Really good racing at Newbury, featuring the Betfair Hurdle, and the Racehour's favourite track in the UK, Warwick, is on. Wonderful place. Warwick, we'll see you in January. We're heading over. And we're going to start at Newbury first, a 3 mile handicap hurdle. Diarmuid, we'll stick with you. The 130 at Newbury.
Yeah, this is actually a very interesting race where Young Butler reopposes against Ematom. Young Butler beat him last time. Harry Derham, who's just having one hell of a first season, he just looks a very serious trainer indeed. You saw him buying a few of the Caldwell Potter horses, the Caldwell horses. So he obviously has a few good owners there as well. First run, like a lot of his this season, won for him, but I'd fancy Ematom to actually turn that form around. There's a £4 swing now. That's not the clincher. The clincher is soft. The heavy ground is going to make the world of difference here. This horse, when trained by Warren Greytrex, is a Grade 2 winning hurdler. Really highly thought of. Always put his best foot forward. When the mud was flying, that was good to soft the last day behind Young Butler. He gets his conditions now. I know he's 10 years old, but he hasn't had a whole pile of racing. Alan King can definitely get more from him. And a former Grade 2 winning hurdler who's still showing decent form off a mark of 132, finally back in his preferred ground conditions, and Newbury's only going to get worse apparently. So Ematom here for me, Cass, is quite a confident start to the day on Saturday.
Paddy, I have a feeling you and me have discussed this horse that Derm was on about before, Ematom, and we're both of us on the side that he was a bit quirky. Am I right there? Does that ring a bell?
But possibly should have won more than what he has done, Cass. I'd say it that way. He tends to pick up a bit of prize money, but maybe hasn't won as much as what he should. I think this is very, very competitive. Dermo touches on a real good point there with Harry Durham, horses that he has inherited from other outfits. He's done incredibly well with, and this appears to be another one in Young Butler. But I actually thought the horse down the bottom pass was worth a mention here. Gia Henty, this is another one that hasn't been with the stable long. Only had that one run for the Skeltons last time, and Harry was very, very positive on this fella at Market Raise, and to be honest, he didn't help him because he tended to back off his hurdles a little bit, and then he would make the ground in between them, and in the end he was beaten by a horse of Lucy Wadhams, who, for me personally, I thought they dropped him out too far at Sandown the other day, and he ended up finishing fourth, but he had no realistic chance. But Gia Henty is going to get weight all round, and Harry won't have to force him here. There's plenty of pace on offer here with the likes of Kintara, one or two others. But he is getting weight and could just be open to a bit more improvement, this fella. But this is red hot. But I'm going to take a chance with Gia Henty. And to be fair to the Skeltons, they've got him off Tom George, who's off a career high mark, and yet they still look like they're going to get more improvement from him.
Okay, so G.A. Henty for Paddy and Emma Tom for Dermo. And we move on to the 145 at Warwick. It's a 2 mile 5 handicap hurdle. Paddy, we'll stick with you. Did you fancy anything here?
I did. I've had my fingers burned as well of this horse I'm going to mention a couple of times in the past. Right down the bottom again here, Astronomic View. Now, probably won't get too many people coming on podcasts and tipping up a Lucy Gardner ridden runner here, but this horse has got plenty of ability. But for me, again, I spoke about Gia Henty in the last and Skelton forcing that one. Lucy's been trying to force this Astronomic View. Now, he doesn't do a stroke when he's in front. He kicks hurdles out of the ground and just doesn't help the job along. He hasn't got enough in hand to do that. But they popped a pair of cheek pieces on him. Now he's been going up for getting beat. But the fact of the matter is, there's plenty of pace here. So I'm just hoping that she'll chill out and sit second or third, just take a lead. This horse is very, very capable, and because who he's trained by and who he's ridden by, you know, they're a smaller stable. You're going to get a little bit of value here betting wise with Astronomic View. This is going to be a well-run race. And just to say, boys, looking at the forecast for both Newbury and Warwick, both tracks could end up very wet by Saturday. They've got plenty of rain forecast. So that wouldn't be ideal for the likes of what the horse I've just mentioned, Gia Henty, but this fella, Astronomic View, will have no problem. He should have won a banger 2 starts back. I lost a right few quid on him. So I'm hoping on Saturday, despite him still creeping up the weights, I might get that back if Lucy Gardner just takes a lead and rides a little bit of a race on this fella. He's more than capable.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with Astronomic View, Paddy, those front runners, Warwick can really suit. So first time cheek piece is a nice angle. First show of 11-2 on that horse out there. So we'll see, will it drift with the unfashionable connections? I didn't give a show at the top. Santos Blue, roughly 15-8 for Splendid Grey, 5-1. Astronomic View is in there, 11-2, 10-1 bar. Dermo, are you up the top of the market or looking at something else?
Yeah, that Resplendent Grey would be the one here for me without being massively confident on anything. Just I like the run of Christmas. This isn't as strong a race as that, I don't believe, albeit we haven't seen a whole lot of testing of that form. Santos Blue very keen to take him on. I do like this lad, and Ollie Murphy is absolutely flying as well. He's 10 winners from his last 26 runners. His yard are pumping it. So at 5-1 or so, I would like him there. Cass, yeah.
Very good, and a better class of race down as we head south to Newbury again. The 205, the Denman Chase. Shishkin will be roughly somewhere between 1-2 and 4-6. Protector at 5-2. Hitman 12s. Any price you like, Sam Brown, and Does He Know? Dermo could see a Gold Cup contender here.
You could. You'd want your head checked out to be backing him with those odds, just with the bit of kind of mental frailties, let's call them, we've seen from him. This is a race that I'm just very happy to sit back and watch. I have no interest at all in backing it. Hitman might be the type of kind of Nicholas horse that I'd be backing usually in a race like this, but his form has been terrific. So very hard to actually back anything here, I think. Shishkin more than likely wins, but God, you want your head checked back in with those odds, guess.
Yeah, he's a tricky proposition, even though you'd expect him to win. He was going to put up a good performance with King George, I think. Paddy, what do you think?
Yeah, hard to be against him, to be honest, Cass. I mean, the thing about the last, he was so unlucky because he didn't even make a semblance of a mistake. He literally slipped, didn't he, and done the splits in front, and the saddle as hit old Nico up the backside, and he looked the winner all day long, to be honest. I'm just trying to think where the start is here, because he is getting very tricky at these starts, isn't he? Just that 2 mile 7 at Newbury.
They actually start up the back, like, for the Hennessy anyway. They start up the back, so 2-7 it'll be on the back straight.
I think it's just as they turn into the back straight, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's the Hennessy start anyway, if it's the same trip. But either way, it's going to be on the back straight, Paddy.
I mean, the thing about here is, like, the other boys, really, if they're switched on, they want to give Shishkin absolutely zero help down at the start tomorrow, because effectively, if he jumps off, they've got zero chance of beating him. I mean,
what do you do, Paddy? What do you do to put him off starting?
Well,
so if you're Harry Skelton and you're playing silly beggars with Nico, what do you do that he might plant himself?
Well, I mean, obviously the starter is going to be screaming at the boys to hang on for Nico. But you see, the starters now, they can't even, they might as well do away with the assistant starter, because they're not even allowed to have the crop in their hand anymore. It's literally like some random fella sat up or walking up behind the runners. They can literally do nothing, only wave their arms. So if Shishkin doesn't want to go tomorrow, he won't go, because there is effectively now no assistant starters, just some random fella or random woman stood behind them. But if the starter's shouting at the boys tomorrow, oh, hang on, wait for Nico. If I was them, I would keep coming towards the tape. Don't be waiting for Shishkin. And to be honest, that's probably the only way of beating him tomorrow, is getting away from the start without him. Protectorate, I mean, I love the Dan Skelton is such a carbon copy of Paul Nicholls. He just loves prize money, and he keeps all these horses busy all year and runs them, because he probably hasn't got the material to be competitive at the festival in March. So he's picked up so much prize money this year. But the thing about Dan Skelton is he'll still turn up in March and run these horses. And if he lands on one, he's delighted. But he's mopped up so much money, as he has with this horse. When he ran at Haydock 3 starts ago, Skelton said himself, this horse didn't try a yard. He was given the fences 2 foot. But his 2 runs since, they've really drilled him. When it came to the business end, they drilled him. I thought Harry was very good on him at Aintree the last day, unfortunately. Or not Aintree, at Lingfield. And he ran an absolute screamer and bumped into a horse who was just so well primed and trained. To be honest, I think they'll be looking tomorrow at a silver medal. Anything after that is a bonus. But for me, the only chance they have of beating Shishkin tomorrow is trying to give him a zero help down at the start and get away without him.
Yeah, I think with Protectorate, 20 days off is not enough to get over that Lingfield race. Having already ran in the new year, I think, in Cheltenham as well. So it's tough going on him to try and keep tabs at Shishkin.
But probably what Skelton is thinking, Cass, is he's thinking, well, if Shishkin doesn't go, I'm sure he'd be thinking the exact same as you. They prefer a good bit more than 20 days. But he'd be looking at that thinking, well, if he stands still at the start, we could be on for a right pot here, because you could pick holes in the other 3.
I was very surprised he didn't get a Grand National entry, actually, Protectorate. Okay, so we're moving on to Warwick, and the 220 is a 2 mile 5 mare's herd listed race. You Wear It Well has a penalty here, gives £4 to the field, and she's roughly about even money. Win to the Lightning for Oliver Greenall, Josh Guerrero, and Get a Tonic for Dan Skelton. Blue Beach will be any price you like. Paddy, any view on this one?
Well, I mean, You Wear It Well is very nicely in at the weights here, isn't she, off 144. They switched things up a little bit at Donny last time, tried to drop her in behind Marie's Rock, and I'm not really sure that she's seen at her best, been ridden patient at that. She still ran very well, but if it's going to turn into a dash, you're not going to beat Marie's Rock. So it'd be interesting to see what they do tomorrow. Blue Beach and Get a Tonic. When Get a Tonic won 2 starts back, Skelton drilled her from the front. So I'd imagine Trishan Durrell is probably going to do the same tomorrow. But You Wear It Well, I don't think will be a million miles off the pace here. The one thing I will say is it's very difficult to try and grab stable form. But the Snowdon runners, just looking, I had a look down through all his runners the last 2 weeks. He had one turned over yesterday, a shorty at Sedgefield, albeit it did come back lame. But they're just not finding winning as easy in the last couple of weeks. And he has had a few shorties turned over, so maybe just worth keeping that on board. But she's very, very likeable. You wear it well. Absolutely no chinks to her or quirks at all. And I do think with some decent fractions here, she's so well into the weights, should be difficult to beat.
Okay, so you wear it well for Paddy. Dermo, did you give Skelton's Mare or Win to the Lightning any chance here?
No, it's a bad race, Cass. I'm not even sure I'll watch it, but the favourite should be taking a lot of stopping. Very, very, very well in there.
Okay, so we move back to Newbury and a good little race over there. Questions to answer for Edward Stone. Boot Hill, is he as good away from Ascot? Edward Jeet needs to get back on track as well. And Amarillo Sky is in there as well, a Newbury specialist. I thought this was a little cracker of a race, Paddy. What do you think?
Yeah, it certainly is. But when I read through them, a few of these, Cass, the bulk of these are actually on the downgrade. I think the handicap marks tell us that, to be fair. I mean, Edward Stone have just turned 10, and the rivals aren't far behind them. Finabel Savola is looking to get a hat-trick of wins in this race, but recent form, beaten Fav again last time, and pretty quick turnaround, both him and Edred Geet and Calico running 2 weeks later here. But, I mean, Edward Stone, when you look back through his earlier form, he did appear to stay 2.5 over hurdles, but over fences, it just doesn't seem to be the case. And when they were tempted to pop up in trip again last time, he's done the same. He looked early doors like he was going to settle, but eventually he's locked on after jumping 2 or 3 fences, and he was over racing it. In a race of that quality, he's never going to get home. But here, back to the minimum, plenty of pace. Editor the Geek gets the cheap pieces on tomorrow. Amarillo Sky, Calico. So to be fair, Tom Cannon is going to get a lovely toe into this race. I think he should get back on the winning thread, but probably worth noting that it is a fair while since he's actually managed to win a race, Edward Stone. So he has gotten out of the winning habit a little bit. Boot Hill, he comes here off the back of a fall. Editor the Geet, he gives himself a hard time. It's impossible to give that horse an easy race. And just 14 days after that last run, that's a fair ask, albeit he does run the track well. So very, very rarely I'll go against Edward Stone, and I won't tomorrow, albeit he is going to be a pretty tight price considering he's a 10-year-old.
Yeah, what about you, Dermo? Any cause to take on the two at the top of the market, or do you fancy one of them?
No, I kind of went through this with the goal of taking on Edward Stone, Stephen, but I just couldn't find a horse to actually take him on. I think Boot Hill has just reached the peak of what he's going to do now. I'm not sure he's much better than his current mark. Edward Stone sulked last time over the wrong trip, but he'd ran well previously behind John Bond, and that run behind John Bond is probably just enough to win a race like this. As interesting an affair as it is, I just don't think there's anything here to actually beat him.
Yeah, unorthodox move for the host to give a tip, but I thought Amarillo Sky might be worth chancing here. He's off a year off the track almost, but he won last season on the back of a 216-day break, beating Fugitive at Cheltenham. He's just a Newbury specialist. He's absolutely bolted up on his 2 completed starts. He's getting weight from Edward Stone, Boot Hill, and Editor G. Gets 6 pounds from all of them, brings him into it at the weights. When horses are off like that, you often have to have them fit, I think, to have them ready. Now, he might be going for the Grand Annual. It might be a sighter, but double-figure prices, I think. When there's a lot of question marks about the ones at the top, he could be one worth chancing. So we're back over to Warwick for the 255. It's a middle distance series veterans handicap chase over 2.5. Do Your Job will be up there as Jolly, a 10-year-old, with Diego de Charmille, Fast Book, Riders on the Storm. They're the fancied ones. Dermo, Anthony, these veterans chases aren't your bag, are they?
No. Again, you can go on to Paddy, who might have more there, Cass. Yeah.
What about you, Paddy?
Yeah, plenty of pace. It looks like here, Cass, Riders of the Storm, who is a fairly reliable horse, and Do Your Job, making his first start for Charlie Longston. And probably worth mentioning the 12-year-old at the top, Diego Charmille, 649 days since he last ran, but he has got a bit of previous fresh. Handicappers giving him a chance, and the excellent Freddie Gingell taking that mark down to 134. But the most interesting one I thought here was down the bottom, Fast Book for Jane Williams. Lorca Williams has won on this gelding in the past. Now, the only reason I did come down on him was looking at the forecast for Warwick. if it gets very wet there on Saturday, he'll absolutely love that, because that's why he got his head back in front last time. He's getting weight all around here, fast book, and he's got a little bit less miles on the clock than one or two of these, considering it is a veterans event. So I'll side with fast book here, who comes from a yard who, although they don't run him very often, got a really, really good strike rate, James Williams.
Very good, very good. And we move on to one of the biggest handicap hurdles of the year in the UK. The Betfair Hurdle, 2 miles, just over 2 miles at Newbury. Always a belt of a race. Luminaries of the sport like My Tent or Yours and Sarkander have won this race. Spirit Leader, Geos, Landing Light. Great race always, Dermo. What did you come down on here? Tricky betting proposition now, I would say.
100%, but Jesus, this is what we want. You know, these are just absolutely cracking races. First of all, the Castle de Mott is very interesting that the horse runs her off 133. I heard him discussing this on Nick Luck. He would be running off 139 if in Ireland, but he runs off 133 here because the French form is just calculated separately. We don't know what that horse has done. I'm very happy to take him on at those odds, Stephen. I don't think that money, listening to Anthony Bromley today, is from them really. It's people putting 2 and 2 together and hoping they're getting 4. Altobelli is very interesting, but again, this race has the propensity to really cut up though, because the heavier this gets, the younger horses could just find this very, very tough. You know, massive field handicap with really, really grueling conditions, because Newbury tends to be quite decent, has been decent all season, but it's very different. Like Iberico Lord hasn't dealt with anything like this. An awful lot of them haven't. So I've landed down on 2. One horse that I'm thrilled rain is Spirit Danu, running here for Gary Moore. Starting your Betfair Hurdle preparations with looking for what Gary Moore has entered is quite decent. He's had 3 winners and 8 places in the last 20 years. He targets this race, but not only does he target it, he targeted it effectively. He's a brilliant trainer. And what he does here, and this horse was earmarked very, very quickly after his last win. And the reason why the rain's very good is that he wanted every inch of that 2 miles at Sandown last time. And they said afterwards he could go close in a Betfair, but he'd want it heavy and everything else. He gets all of that here. This is a very smart animal, who I think could have gone well in some of the festivals last year as well. Had they actually went that way, they've kind of kept him back. I think he's much better than a mark of 139. He's been safe for this. Caelan Quint takes off £3, who's had a wonderful season. And at 12 to 1 or so with BetMGM, Spirit Danu for me is just really, really interesting. The other one here then as well is Under Control, who will also have a swing at 11 to 1. This horse loves soft ground, will definitely handle it. Is on a good turn of weight now with Iberico Lord, who's 8 to 1. How this horse is the price that it is. Ran really well last time when looked after by Mark Walsh. John Joe O'Neill Jr. takes over. 11 to 1 about Under Control is way too big. Spirit Danu is my main one, but I cover it Under Control at a reverse forecast there as well, Cass, and we'll absolutely take the lot.
Very good. Gary Moore has won this race 3 times in the past, of course. A while since he's won it. 2015 was his last one, but he's very good at targeting these handicap hurdles. I would have thought if York C consents to race, you could get 3-figure prices on him, and he definitely has the ability to contend in one of these big handicaps if he bothers. With my cousin Niall Houlihan riding him, of course.
Your good friend.
Yeah, my good friend. I've never met him.
Also,
I met him once.
People will be punting mad as well, Cass, on the Willie Mullins horses here as well. He doesn't have a good record in this race. He'll definitely win it now after saying this, but he's 18 runners in this field over the last 20 years, and he hasn't really gone that close at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is
so like it's one where his runners will get overbacked, and it's not a race that I don't think he particularly targets, so I don't think it kind of lands for him. But look, watch him now get the 1, 2, 3. Absolutely no doubt.
Yeah. Paddy, Willie is one at the top, and then Altobelli's there for Harry Fry, Iberico Lord on the comeback trail. What did you like?
Yeah, this is an absolute cracker, and probably worth mentioning as well, boys, that Willie's horse down the bottom for Paul Byrne, if the weather is going to turn a bit nasty, he could sneak in here as a reserve, but he's a tricky customer, isn't he, to get him to jump off. And Paul Byrne, I know he's the winner at the DRF of the bumper, but he's had some fairly ordinary luck as well the last few days. But no, this is an absolute cracker, and as it should be. But the one I liked here was the Ben Pauling horse. Tell her the name. I mean, Keelan Woods, he said after this one won at Huntingdon back in November, that this is the best horse he's ever sat on. And, you know, Keelan's ridden some nice ones. And that day at Huntingdon, he absolutely kicked Lucky Place out of the way. 14 lengths, he beat Lucky Place. And we've seen what Lucky Place done behind Gidley Park at Cheltenham last time. And
Cass's favorite horse.
You know, I mentioned
Piggly Bark.
But, you know,
sorry about
the thing is, I think if James Bowen could have another go at that one, he'd hung on a little bit, because he just set it up for Gidley Park to get into an argument with him, and just got outstayed on the day. But Lucky Place is a fair standard bearer. Then I backed him when he ran into Formby at Aintree, but that was Ben Pauling, in his own words, said that was borderline unraceable ground. And Keelan Woods actually said he lost his action that day. And then he was a penalty kick at Huntingdon the last day, where again he bolted up, very, very lightly raced. He's won his point to point, only a 5-year-old. And obviously Harry Cobden, he's trying to chase down Sean Bowen, who returns to the saddle today, is booked to take the ride because Keelan is still on this whopping ban. But this is very, very competitive. But I'm with Teller the Name here off a mark of 1.35. This is going to be a well-run race. They're going to go a million here, and I think it'll be a proper run event. And maybe just give a quick mention as well to Brentford Hope. He runs this track well. This is going to need more off a mark of 134, but I'll take the horse just above him here. Teller the Name for the very informed Ben Pauling.
The rain will certainly help Brentford Pope, Paddy's main pick there, Tell the Name, and Spirit Danu and Under Control getting a mention as well from Diarmuid Nolan. Warwick finishes up with the Kingmaker, but it's such a poor race we probably won't even touch on that. So then we're into the rest of Saturday, Sunday. Dermot, I'm going to open the floor to you. There's good-ish card at Naas. The Great Helvic Dream runs in the maiden hurdle. Did you fancy that?
It's a serious card, yeah. And the opening race has actually produced the Fred Winter winner now for the last 5 years. So that's a race to obviously note. They opened the question one quite well, 2 runs back, and it's just running here simply because he has to, obviously, because he ran at the DRF. But the horse there, Noro, or how the hell do you say that? Nora, sorry.
Nara. Two as Nara.
Nara, yeah, perfect. I had such problems with that. But Nara actually ran a blinder last time. This is a race that should suit really well and does look a bit of a plot. So this horse will be worth watching it as what happens with him. But just this whole field, they don't necessarily win this race while going on to the Fred Winter, but they do seem to go on to the Fred Winter. In the 305 at Naas, I really like a horse running there called Whiskey Welt. Was looking like the winner at Tremor off this exact mark and was caught last time. Basically, last winning mark is 3 pounds higher over fences, goes back over hurdles, has shown a propensity for it. So off 11.11 in obviously a very winnable race there. He looks a very good bet there for John Shinnick, who knows him very well. And Terence O'Brien in the 4.15, I believe you think that the Hunter Chase winner is out. I think it's on the line. Is the one for me there anyway. He could be very interesting. Then moving over to Navan on Sunday, we've got Brighter Days ahead in the 2.15, who'll obviously jump up more towards the head of the market potentially. At Cheltenham, the Boyne Hurdle has an absolute load of either cross-country runners or horses that didn't quite work out. And then last but not least, the 10 up there, which seems to be where a good few horses are trying to qualify for the National Hunt Chase, Stephen, at the festival. And Favori do Shamdu, American Mike Corbett's Cross, who could run maybe after disappointing midweek. And then the likes of Nella Kakuna and Nick Rocket. Serious racing this weekend, but the one that I'll be backing away from what we've discussed is Whiskey Welsh, Stephen.
So Diarmuid Nolan, they're naming about 45 horses and one tip, I think, at the end of it. That was
one
very
tip
good.
Yeah,
that was very good, very good. Geez, like they could look at the race cards if they want to see what's running, Diarmuid. That's what I would think. Helvic Dream actually runs the first race on the Sunday. I was wrong. And an interesting one, I think, on that first race, the race you mentioned that had the Fred Winter winner. What's the ex-bookie's name? What's his name? Chronicle. Justin Carthy, I think he is definitely worth keeping an eye on with the view to the Boodles. Ran really well at Limerick behind Bunting, travelled well for a long way. Was eye-catching the last day, and he'd probably need to go close. So I'll be watching Bright Legend with a view to the Boodles. They won it. What was the horse that won the Boodles in those colours for Joseph? I don't think he ever really ran again after. Quiz question.
Oh, Band of Outlaws.
Yes, well
Yeah,
done,
yeah,
Band of
yeah,
Outlaws.
yeah,
Well done.
yeah.
And Bright Legend ran in the same Limerick race as Band of Outlaws, I think, starting out. So he's definitely caught the eye a couple of times. I think he could be interesting. Paddy, anything else away from the main ITV action on Saturday?
Well, it was interesting. Blazing Cal, he's out Navan as well the weekend, isn't he? In that race, he won last year. I quite like, although just seen because Townhead jocked up to ride him, I really love this Captain Cody. He runs at Naas on Saturday. It's a lovely bumper form last year, and Jody actually rode him first time over hurdles in an amateur hurdle race at Goran last time. Jumped like a bunny and ran through the line hard. I think Captain Cody should follow up on Saturday. And just over at Exeter on Sunday, lads, a great card down at Exeter. Got listed stuff. Willie's actually got a few entries, and Gavin Cromwell has got one or two in there as well. But there was another Skelton horse runs in the 5-3 race, a horse called Be Aware. He won first time out at Newbury in Novice Hurdle nearly 3 weeks ago. Big grey horse by Marteline. And the way he travelled through the race, he looked like he's pretty good. Now, to put him in this listed novice on Sunday, just a second time of asking, they've obviously got a fair high opinion of him. Harry's jocked up to ride. So probably just give him a watch. He's really, really unexposed compared to some of the others that are in the lineup. So that was Be Aware in the 3:05 at Exeter on Sunday, which is it's a really, really good card, full stop, if the rain stays away.
Yeah, quick glance at that Exeter card. Does look good. Finally, so we'll wrap up. A quick thank you to our sponsors, BetMGM and Gambling.com. I think we're done, Diarmuid. We have everything covered. We're going to have to change it to the race half hour because since we got rid of Dino, we fly through this stuff.
We've got naps as well, Stephen. Don't forget them now.
Oh, naps. Yeah. And I'll give a little Eurovision tip then. So go on to the naps. Diarmuid, you go first.
Grand. 130, a horse who is as surefire winner as he is stable mentally. It is Ematon in the 130 at Newbury, who I know you think is a dodge spot, but I think that's factored into his price. He's weighted very, very well there.
Yeah, in fairness, I think about 75% of them are dodge spots. Paddy, what about you?
I was with my Betfair hurdle selection. Tenor, the name, only had the 5 starts over hurdles so far. Very interesting. Harry Compton doesn't ride for the Ben Pauling stable. He comes in for the ride. So Tenor, the name in the Betfair hurdle.
Okay, and next week we'll have a new podcast where Dermot Nolan reads out the names of every horse running on every card, and it could be a kind of one of those sleep things.
And you can tell us which one has a kink and which one doesn't.
And one last little thing, San Remo, the Italian Eurovision national final, is on this Saturday night, and I think a fella called Irama is worth a bet. He's double figures, so about 10-1. And if in doubt, if that Italian national final doesn't have a clear winner, it tends to be a good male ballot wins it. So he's the only standout of that. So I'm having a few quid on Irama at double figures. We'll see how that goes in San Remo. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next Tuesday for a review and next Thursday for a tipping pod. We've been the Racehour. Signing off.
Relentless, remorseless, and pounded Cordon Star into submission.